Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. This week we're in Parsha Masei, Numbers 33 to 36, finishing out this book. Many years, this is combined with the portion right before it, Matot, speaking to the tribes and the leaders. Remember, these are things that are getting ready to get into the land. They're getting ready to get into the promise. As we close this out and get into the book of Deuteronomy, the Varim, and it's a preparation for the children of Israel who are going into the land. It's like, these are the things we need to remember before you get there, kind of a thing, right? Now, how many encampments did they go through in the wilderness? 42. 42 encampments in the wilderness. But interesting, I don't want to focus on those today. We're going to talk about, even though it's Masei journeys that we're talking about, journeys of the people of Israel, it's not just about the journey. Life is a journey, okay? And we can't just focus on the destination, because if we live life just focusing on the destination, then we're always going to feel like we're lacking. We're never good until we reach the next destination. We're goal-oriented. We have that goal. Nothing wrong with having goals, but our life is not about reaching the next goal. It is about the journey, right? What are you doing in life now until you get to that goal? There is a journey in life, and that's where life happens. Okay, if we're not just living to get to the next thing, to get to the next thing, to get to the next thing. No, we have to live life in the process of that. So we're learning about the journey, but at the same time, we do have to keep an intent towards where we're going. And that's why we're looking for the land of Israel. This was not just part of the journey, not just the destination, but this was the inheritance for the people of Israel. This was included in the redemption of the people of Israel. This is a fulfillment of the promise that Yahweh had given to them. Okay, so these are some of the things we're going to be looking at. And also keep in mind that this here, what we have in the Torah, is the oldest historical record of the boundaries of Israel. Numbers chapter 34, in other words, is the legal title to the promised land. What are the boundaries? Here they are. This is given by Yahweh himself. And this was saying the eastern border is the Jordan River. So who does the land belong to? First of all, the land belongs to Yahweh. Okay, the whole earth is his and everything in it. The land belongs to him. And he can do with it what he wants. Right? So he said he had the people of Israel to bring to that land. And it is his land. Matter of fact, Psalm 24:1 says, the earth is Yahweh's and all the fullness thereof, the world and all those who dwell in it. Okay, it all belongs to Yahweh. Leviticus 25:23 says, the land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. You are strangers and sojourners with me. Even as they go into the land, Yahweh is saying, you don't buy and sell the land, you're like leasing it. The land is mine. Okay, and even then we talk about the Jubilees, which we get into that in a minute, which is also part of the inheritance, the redemption, and the promise. But as they get into that, every 50 years, the people went back to the place of their inheritance, the place of their heritage. It was a reminder of who they are, where they came from, and what the meaning of their life was. All right, all this coming in together. Numbers 34, 1 and 2. Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, command the people of Israel and say to them, when you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you for an inheritance, the land of Canaan defined by its borders. So again, he's telling them this is where you're going. So Numbers 34 is reiterating Genesis 13 and 15. In Genesis 13, verse 15, we see, all the land that you see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. Again, Yahweh speaking to Avram, and he says, all this land that you see, I'm giving it to you and your offspring. Now get up and walk through the land. And so everywhere where Abraham walked, Israel is going in, and they will possess the land. Genesis 15:18. On that day, Yahweh made a covenant with Avram, saying, to your offspring, I give this land from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates. Deuteronomy 11:24 says, every place on which the sole of your foot treads shall be yours. Your territory shall be from the wilderness to the Lebanon, and from the river Euphrates, to the western sea. Joshua, chapter 1, verses 3 and 4, It says, every place the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I promised to Moshe. From the wilderness and the Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites to the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. So the borders, the boundary, the inheritance and the heritage of Israel are in the Torah. We learned this coming in together, and it was given for you to grow in and to prosper in and to be his people in. The place of Israel, it's not just a place of history, it's a place of future. It's a place where Yahweh says he will gather all people and all nations too. And so that's another reason why there's such a fight over it. Deuteronomy 10:11-13 says, Yahweh says, arise, go on your journey, and at the head of the people, so that they may go in and possess the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. And now, Israel, what does Yahweh your God require of you? But to fear Yahweh your God, walk in all his ways, love him, serve Yahweh your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and keep the commandments and statutes of Yahweh, which I am commanding you today for your good. And what are the things, one of the things that he commanded you for this day was to go in and to journey into the promise, to go in and walk into the promise that he's given you. Matter of fact, the promise of the land is part of the redemption for the people of Israel. In Exodus chapter 6, when Yahweh visited them in Mitzrayim, and he says, I will redeem you, he includes in that redemption, and I will bring you to the land that I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So again, I will redeem you and bring you to this land. This final redemption we're looking at, it's not just a matter of, okay, I'm going to redeem you and then that's it. I'm going to leave you where you're at. No. I'm going to redeem you and bring you into the wilderness. No. I'm going to redeem you and bring you into this land that I have promised you. Okay, there is a goal here that we are looking at. And for us, we're also looking towards the New Jerusalem, that we're looking towards that goal as well. Hebrews 11:8-10, it says, by faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance, and he went out not knowing where he was going. By faith he went to live in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, living in tents with Yitzhak and Yaakov, heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city that has a foundations, whose designer and builder is God. So again, who is that city? What is that city whose designer and foundation and the builder is God? Again, Yerushalayim, I believe we're looking towards the New Jerusalem as well. Revelation 3:12 says, the one who conquers, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. Never shall he go out of it. And I will write on him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down from my God out of heaven, and my own new name. Revelation 21:2 says, and I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Okay, so back to Numbers, chapter 33, verses 50 and 56. So Yahweh spoke to Moshe in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan. So he's saying, you're going to go in, right? Now there's a responsibility for you. When you go in, there's something I want you to do. You shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their pictures, destroy their molten images, and pluck down all their high places. Guys, if we're going to go walk into the promise, we need to dwell in it and not allow the old ways to coexist. In other words, do not mix the holy and the profane. Okay, we need to follow Yahweh and serve him his way. We can't serve idols and worship Yahweh. We can't serve an idol and then say, whoa, I'm not supposed to serve an idol, so we do the same worship for Yahweh. Can't do that. Okay? He says, do not allow the old ways to coexist with the new ways that I am bringing you into. I want you to walk and follow after me. We see again in Deuteronomy 18, verses 9-12, when you are come to the land which Yahweh your God gives you, you are not to learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that makes his son or daughter to pass through the fire, or uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahweh, and because of these abominations, Yahweh your God drives them out from before you. So again, when you go into the promise, I don't want you to live the way that the people there are living. That's why they're being driven out. They're not being included in the promise. And I don't want you to live the way that your old life was. When they were in Mitzrayim, all they knew was to be a slave. They knew how to live in Mitzrayim. So he says, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to live the way of your old life, and I don't want you to live the way of the people that you see in there ahead of you. Which leads to the question, so how are we supposed to live? What are we supposed to do? And that's why Yahweh says, follow me. Listen to my voice. Do the things I ask you to do. That's the path of life that he has set before us. Jeremiah 10:2 says, thus says Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. It doesn't mean there aren't going to be signs in the heavens. It says don't be dismayed at them. You're not doing horoscopes. You're not looking for the stars to tell you how to live. No, the stars are signs, not instructions. Okay, so they can tell us things, but it's not telling us how to live. Okay, how we respond to these things is according to Yahweh's word, right? Numbers 33, verse 53. And you will dispossess the inhabitants of the land and dwell, and I have given you the land to possess it. And you shall divide the land by lot for an inheritance among your families, and to the more you shall give the more inheritance, to the fewer you shall give the less inheritance. Every man's inheritance shall be in the place where his lot falls, according to the tribes of your fathers you shall inherit. But if you will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come to pass that those which you let remain of them shall be pricks in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and you shall vex you in the land where you dwell. Moreover, it shall come to pass that I shall do unto you as I thought to do unto them. He's saying if you do not drive out the idolatry, if you do not get rid of these things that are there, if you try to coexist with it, then it will be, it says, pricks in your eyes and thorns in your sides and vex you where you dwell. We learn a spiritual lesson here. When Yahweh delivers you, don't try to coexist with the past. You need to be delivered. He delivered you. Now we need to walk with him, not try to keep walking in the old ways and do the old things. Yahweh said, no, you leave those things and you follow after him. So what happens here is that all Israel receives their portion as an inheritance. It's the word that's given there. The word nachal is what's used there. It means to inherit, to take as a heritage, and to possess it. So a heritage, it's where you come from. He says you're to take this as a heritage. Yahweh is saying this is a place where you're being planted and you're going to grow and you're going to pass this on to your generations. That's inheritance. You're going to pass this on. You're going to occupy this place and live in this place and dwell in safety and do this. Many promises with this over and over, that if the people follow Yahweh, they hear his voice, if they do what he says, they will be blessed in the land. But if they do not hear his voice, then there is exile and there's other things being involved in that. We're not talking about that today. But he says, I am bringing you into this promise that I have for you. And that's what we're looking at, even with us. If we follow him, there is a life of promise that's there, that is there for our inheritance. We inherit it from Yahweh, and we are to pass it on to our children as an inheritance. Exodus 15:17 says, you will bring the people that you have redeemed, and you will plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, Yahweh, which you have made for you to dwell in the sanctuary, Yahweh, which your hands have established. Deuteronomy 32:8-9 says, when the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For Yahweh's portion is his people, Yaakov, his lot of his inheritance. So when you go in the land, he said that for the larger tribes, they're going to get more land. For the tribes that don't have as many will get less land, but they are going to be divided by lot. Well, here in Deuteronomy 32:8, it says, when Yahweh divided up the nations for their inheritance, he separated the sons of Adam. He set the bounds of Israel as a means for the inheritance for the sons of Jacob. So again, Yahweh is determining, who goes where. And he said there's a time when all will be called into the place of Yahweh, or place of Israel, by his hand. Which leads to an interesting thought. What do we call this when those who are in the world return to Israel and dwell in the place of their heritage and inheritance? That's called Jubilee. All right, we find the definition of that in the scripture. That's the Yovel, the 50th years. See, every 7 years was a time of remission. Okay, the Shemitah years, debts were forgiven, and the land was to lay fallow. You could gather, from the land that it produced by itself, but there was no major sowing and reaping going on. Right, it was the land had a rest. But then in the 50th year, wherever you were, right, even if you're in the land, but you're not in your family's portion of the land, you returned to your familial portion of the land. So if you're outside of the land, you return to the land and back to the portion that was allotted to you as your heritage and your inheritance. So all Israel, no matter what tribe they were from, returns to the land from the nations to worship and serve Yahweh as a thankfulness that he has released their debts, and given the Jubilee, and brought them all back in together. Guys, what happens when we come all back in together? It's supposed to be a place of worship and honor to Yahweh in doing this, right? So Yovel, the Jubilee, cannot be declared until all the tribes return home. Leviticus 25:10 says, you were to consecrate the 50th year, proclaiming freedom throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It will be a Yovel for you, and you will return everyone to the land he owns, and everyone to return to his family. So it was decreed in the 49th year, during the time of Yom Kippur, in other words, the time where atonement was given. After atonement was given, then the Jubilee was declared, and then because atonement was there, and the debts were released, all were free, they all came back home into that place. No matter what tribe they were from, no matter where they were, no matter what was going on, they returned home. Guys, this is one of the things that Yeshua said that he came to do. Okay? Matter of fact, the promises of those in the nations coming back to the land, it's the single largest prophecy that's repeated over and over again throughout the entirety of the scripture. All right, we see a couple things here. In John 10:14-16, Yeshua says, I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And I have other sheep that are not of this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd. See that? Why does he say, and there will be one flock, one shepherd? Because there are many, many tribes, and there are many people that are there. And he says, I have other sheep that are not of this fold. What fold? That's what he's talking about, guys. There's Yeshua came to gather in from every nation, every tongue, every tribe into a place of covenant relationship with him. And he's going to bring all of us together as one people. And that people is his people, called by his name that he has given. And that people is called Israel. John 11:49-52, Caiaphas speaking about Yeshua. He says, don't you take into account it is better for you that one man die for the people rather than the whole nation be destroyed? And he didn't say this of himself. Scripture says, as the Kohen Gadol that year, he prophesied that Yeshua would die for the nation, but not for that nation only, but also he might gather together into one the scattered children of God. Who were the scattered children of God? Those who went into the nations, those who were scattered into the world, but yet will be called back. No matter if you're Jew or Gentile, okay, no matter where you came from, if you serve Yahweh, he will call you back in to be part of one people. Deuteronomy 30:4 says, if your outcasts are in the uttermost parts of heaven, from there, Yahweh your God will gather you, and from there he will take you. The word there for gather you is kavatz, that's being used there. And the idea is to gather you in together as a people. Gather you in together, not to gather you in your own separate places. No, gather you in as one. And kavatz is used in part of the restoration for all of Israel. A couple things that are given here, not a lot, just a couple scriptures given here on the word kavatz. according to the theological word book of the Old Testament. A couple places it's used here in gathering and assembling. It's about Israel. Okay, God pledges to assemble his people from the places where he scattered them during the great exile. This promise is repeatedly recalled by the prophets. One we see in Isaiah 11:12, where it says, he will raise a signal for the nations and will assemble the banished of Israel and gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. See that? He will raise a signal for the nations, a nest. He will raise a signal for the nations. Well, guys, I believe this is referring to Yeshua, that it says when he is lifted up, he will draw all men to him. It's like all nations, all people will be gathered to him when he is lifted up. In John chapter 3, Yeshua said, just as the serpent was lifted up in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up. And then famously, John 3:16, right? So again, the idea of when we look to Yeshua, he is gathering together from all nations, all people, to be one people, no matter where you're from. Okay? Also, in the eschaton, this divine gathering is to extend to all people. We see in Isaiah 66:18, even the Gentiles, which we just read in Isaiah 11:12. So Isaiah 66:18 says, for I know their works and their thoughts, and the time is coming to gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and shall see my glory. See that? Gathering in from all nations and tongues, no matter where you're from, you will be gathered in to be a part of this people. By so accomplishing such a clear prophecy, God exhibits his sovereignty and therefore sanctifies himself to those gathered, which we see in Ezekiel 20:41. It says, as a pleasing aroma, I will accept you when I bring you out from the people, gather you out of the countries where you have been scattered, and I will manifest my holiness among you in the sight of the nations. So again, he will bring from wherever you're scattered, from wherever you are, and will bring you in, and he will show his holiness in the sight of the nations, in you, through you. Isaiah 5:26 and 27 says, he will lift up a banner to the nations far off, and will whistle for them from the ends of the earth. That word whistle just means like a shrill sound. So they have this cry going forward, this whistle to the ends of the earth, and look, swiftly, speedily they come. None will be weary, and none stumble among them, and none will slumber or sleep. I believe this is talking of a time of restoration that's yet to happen in its fullness. I believe we're talking about resurrection. I believe we're talking about right as Yahweh is judging, he's bringing all of his people in together. He will lift up the banner for the nations. I believe that banner lifted up is Yeshua. It's lifted up for all the nations to gather all people in together. Ezekiel 34:12 and 13 says, as a shepherd seeks out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered. Again, giving us examples of that, right? So will I seek out my sheep, and I will deliver them out of all the places where they have been scattered in a cloudy and dark day. And I will bring them out from the people, gather them from the countries, and will bring them to their own land. And where is this own land? I will feed them upon the mountains of Israel, by the rivers, and in all the inhabited places of the country. So again, his sheep that were scattered, he will seek out his sheep and bring them back in to their own land, which is in Israel. Ezekiel 37:10 to 14. So I prophesied just as he commanded. The Ruach came into them, speaking of the dry bones, and they stood on their feet, a vast army. And he said to me, son of man, these bones are, don't be abstract. He tells us who the dry bones are. The dry bones are the whole house of Israel. Well, the whole house of Israel is not truly the whole house unless all tribes are represented. And again, we also see in Ezekiel, the prophecy of the two sticks, there are others that are not from the tribes that will be joined with the tribes to be part of the people of Israel. So the whole house of Israel consists of all the tribes and all those joined with them. So look, he says, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. And behold, they say, our bones are dried up, our hope is lost, we are cut off by ourselves. Therefore prophesy and say to them, thus says Adonai Elohim, Behold, this is really interesting. Look at this. I will open your graves. I will bring you up out of your graves, my people. I will bring you back to the land of Israel. And you will know that I am Adonai when I have opened your graves and brought you up out of your graves, my people. I will put my Ruach in you, and you will live. I will place you in your own land, and you will know that I, Adonai, have spoken, and I have done it. It is a declaration of Adonai. Again, Yahweh is saying in this redemption, in the final redemption of everything, even when I bring you up out of your graves and I will gather you all in together, I'm bringing you back to Israel. Ezekiel 47:21-23 says, you are to divide the land for yourselves to the tribes of Israel, and so you are to divide it by lot for an inheritance for you and for the outsiders who dwell among you. Whoever bears children among you, they will be to you like the native born of Bnei Israel, the sons of Israel. They will be allotted an inheritance along with you among the tribes of Israel. And in whatever tribe the outsider lives, there you will give him his inheritance. It is a declaration of Adonai. See that? Even someone who is not a descendant of Israel will come in and be a part with the people of Israel. Consider as well, guys, the whole Romans 11, you're grafted in to what? Jeremiah 32:37-41 says, see, I will gather them out of all the countries where I have driven them in my anger, my fury, and my great wrath, and I will bring them back to this place and cause them to dwell securely. They will be my people, and I will be their God. I will give them one heart and one way, so that they may fear me forever, for their good and for their children after them. I will make an everlasting covenant with them. I will never turn away from doing good for them. I will put my fear in their hearts so that they will not depart from me. Yes, I will delight in doing good for them, and with all my heart and with all my soul I will in truth plant them in this land. There's a lot going on here in this passage, but again, seeing this, we have one heart and one way. In other words, Yahweh gives us a new heart. He gives us his heart, and in that we're going to walk according to his ways, not our own. And then we talk about this everlasting covenant. Yeah, this is the everlasting covenant that we will forever be with him. And he says, and I will surely plant them in this land. You know, it says here in verse 41, all my heart and all my soul, I will plant them in this land. That is the only place in the scripture where Yahweh says he will do anything with all his heart and all his soul. Interesting. This is the only time in the entirety of the scripture he says he will do something with all of his heart and all of his soul. What does that tell us? It's important. And if it's important to Yahweh, should we be mindful of it? Absolutely. Talking of the restoration of his people and calling us all in together to be one. Revelation 3, verses 12 and 13 says, to the one who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and he will never leave it again. I will write the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the new Jerusalem, which comes down from heaven of my God, in my own new name. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Ruach is saying to Messiah's communities. See that? Again, the new Jerusalem. That's where we're heading. It's where we're going. And it's because of our inheritance and our heritage. Because of covenant, we have that place with Yahweh. The new Jerusalem. Revelation 21, 1-4. So I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I also saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. I also heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling of God is among men, and he shall tabernacle among them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be among them and be their God. And he shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more, nor shall there be mourning or crying or pain any longer, for the former things have passed away. See that? Interesting, guys. We're talking about the restoration and bringing all the people back into this land, the land of Israel. And then we're talking of the great city. We're talking about forever and eternity, the New Jerusalem, which is where? In Israel. Again, just a matter of showing a heritage and inheritance for the people of Yahweh. We're all going to one place. We need to learn to dwell together. And as he restores us, he's going to be putting us together, but we need to be able to dwell in harmony there with one another and learn to work together with one another to get to these points and the promises the Father has given to us, right? Okay, that's all I have for you today, guys. I hope this has been encouraging to you, been a blessing to you. And if this has, then please share it. Whatever avenue you watch or you listen to these teachings, if it's been a blessing to you, share it. It's going to bless somebody else, right? And if this has been a blessing to you, then please consider making a donation to help us continue making these videos to help put them out there. We can only do that because you equip us to do so. All right? So until next time, be blessed and be a blessing. Shalom.